Star Citizen normally puts out a big surprise every year, a big thing for CitizenCon. It's their version of the Big Apple surprise. Now, Citcon 2050, which was really 2020, had to be canceled due to the pandemic. It was literally right as the time stuff was happening, and they were just like, cancel it, we'll do it next year. Citcon 2049, or 2019, showed a very, very, very basic sneak peek jump from Stanton to the Pyro system in the, at the time, almost completed CARACK. It is the video that I linked to you above from Eradicator. He put out a good, sort of very clean copy of it, and I didn't want to go digging through 2 hours of stuff, so I just linked his video for people to see and enjoy. At the point, the CARACK was almost complete, and that's another sort of tradition of Citcon where they will hype the shit out of a massive ship that they're about to sell for a ton of money. And hey, God bless them. It's smart. If you're going to sell ships, you might as well advertise smartly, and they do. But the actual sneak peek video itself, the CARACK, that was legit. It was almost done, and they pointed at a couple things and said, hey, like Chris was on the screen, like stage, pointing up at a big screen and saying, that part is changed a little bit. It's going to change a little bit. It's coming soon. It's going to be out to you in the next couple, like, month or two. But the part of the video that was them jumping from Stanton to Pyro, I'm just going to say it, I strongly suspect that it was not real. It was a sort of an art asset tech demo. It was a conceptual video of him saying, like, this is what we want it to be. And it showed a very cool jumping through, like you'd like the system gate, the jump point, which is what it's called in this game, like lit up, and then you start the jump, and then you're doing this thing that is kind of like a mix between the Stargate, jump from Stargate SG-1 or whatever, and the contact jumping through the thing where it's like you're going through this weird watery walled funnel-y type dealy, and there's this whole thing, and it's a trip that takes like a minute or two, and there's actual aspects of gameplay to it where it's like you have to stick to sort of the middle of the stream, don't touch the walls, bad shit will happen, it can like fling you off into space or just rip you into a billion pieces, like. But I think that was sort of a conceptual whatever. I don't think it was like a real whatever. And then when they landed in Pyros, they, slowly panned the camera around for like a minute, and people saw like, oh my God, look at all this stuff, the hype, the hype, the hype. It's awesome. And it was great. But they literally just said, okay, plot course for Ruin Station. And then the lady who was flying the ship, she, quote, finger quote, plotted course, and the ship shoom took off, and then fade to black, the end. They literally just showed sort of a panning around camera of one vista, one view just on the other side of the gate. And I'm not shitting on them for it. This is development. It was a concept that they wanted to hype people up over. But that was 2019. Since then, we've had 2020, and now we're into 2021. They've hired Turbulent, who have come through and been doing a bang-up job. I mean, they nailed the shit out of hospitals. They've been just hitting home runs out of the park all the way along. And they were working on Pyros. In addition to that, the core CIG tech groups that do all of their stuff from the roadmap have been knocking thing after thing after thing off of the list for all of the stuff on Pyro and Nyx. They've been really getting it together. Now, I don't think that Pyro is ready for prime time yet, specifically to be released to us, because the servers can only handle so much load, and you're adding more to it. And I think that we're not going to get to see Pyros Nyx. We're not going to get to see multiple systems until server meshing is a thing. But I think that the tech is done enough that they have a fully flyable, playable Pyro system, and mostly a fully flyable, playable Nyx system with the exception of, I think they have the outside of Ruin Station done. I don't think they have the inside quite done yet. But they can't give that to us until they have full server meshing. But that doesn't mean that they can't put on a full display of it at Citcon when they're on a server of one person and they're in God mode and they're able to whatever. I suspect, I really, really think that we are going to get an amazing show this Citcon where they're going to take some new ship. It could be something like the KRAKEN, but I don't think the KRAKEN is quite finished yet. They do have, if you listen to the stuff, the Super Mac Brothers video that we linked earlier on this episode, there is both some ships that they had that are nearing the completion phase, and then they specifically said, oh, and this one other ship, which we're telling you nothing about, is now pretty much complete. It's ready. I think there's going to be a huge surprise drop of, here is an awesome ship. Here is us doing the same thing we did in 2019 where we approach the gate from Stanton side and jump across. But now it's not going to be a conceptual sort of bullshit, you know, selling you on the hype tech demo. It's going to be the real, here is the fully playable way it's going to go. Jumping through that gate, flying to the Nyx system, flying around the, flying to the Pyro system, flying around the Pyro system and seeing awesome shit that is not conceptual one piece of fake art, but is now the real deal. Promise kept. And then, oh, and also, one more thing, my Apple surprise, my Steve Jobsy, and one more thing. Now we're going to jump to Nyx and show you that shit. I'm seeing in the chat people saying, and Odin. No, don't get your hopes up for Odin. They are very smart to hold back Odin because they're waiting for Squadron 42. They don't want to spoil all of the fun of that hype until Squadron 42 is released. That's when you're going to see Odin shit. This is my huge guess. This is my, oh my God. And now I want to hear from all of you guys. A, what do you think? B, are you like, oh, but they'll also do this, or I don't think they'll do that. And C, just daydream a little bit. What do you want them to do? Let's start with you, Tweaked.
Gonna start with me, huh? Oh, geez, that all sounds absolutely amazing, but I don't even know what to say. I mean, I'm not even in game yet, and there's already an embarrassment of riches of things to come. I can't even begin to imagine. I mean, Pyro, the way you described it, sounds fascinating. Sounds absolutely great to have to worry about natural things killing you, as well as a more more treacherous hive of scum and villainy. That sounds like my kind of place to hang out there. It sounds like a great place to go bounty hunting. You're getting me even more excited already. I honestly, I don't think at this point I can dream any bigger than CIG is or has, and come up with anything that they haven't already thought about. That's how excited I am to get into Star Citizen, and I just think there's so much for me to dig into once I get there.
Tweaked is like that Mormon kid that's like a week away from the wedding night, and he's like, when does this computer get here? It's so exciting to see you. You're Tweaked. You're so excited. It's so great. Katie.
I don't think I've ever been more excited for a game than I am this one right now. This is the game I've been waiting to play since I was about 3 years old.
Beautiful, brother. Katie, do your thing.
So I think you're right. I think that the tech, the underlying tech for these systems to exist is all in place. I would love to see it as you've described. I honestly would absolutely love to see it. For me right now, in terms of like a wish list, I'm still so new to the game that I'm still in wonder of everything that I see, more or less. But I am certainly excited about the prospect of new systems to explore, especially with a system that is essentially lawless, so PvP can occur freely with no consequence. Yeah,
Anywhere.
Totally on board for that. Totally on board for it. I'm excited for whatever revelation may come, but I do think you're probably right on the money. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Roy, you're up.
Yeah, so as you've mentioned previously, once we get past the people that are playing Star Citizen now for, let's call it a month, once we get past the honeymoon phase, we're going to want to take breaks because of the limited number and depth of the existing game loops.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, what's going to keep people in this game or transitioning to playing it like a quote unquote forever game is when they reach a tipping point of having enough playable game loops that have meaningful, persistent advancement.
Mm-hmm.
If we could expand to 2 or certainly to 3 fleshed out systems, that in a step change like that, that's going to provide that. I think, though, that ahead of that, as long as the game can be sort of like reading a chapter ahead of the players, so to speak, and having a couple more game loops for people to play with, I think it could retain a persistent and growing player base, even though it's still an alpha. So my wish, I don't disagree with any of your predictions. My wish would be that we just keep having a few more game loops that keep it in front of us. I'm not looking forward to the honeymoon period ending and running into a wall and then maybe waiting for a quarter to come back and play it again. So I'm hoping that those lines will cross maybe after the end of this year.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to keep in mind is so number one, because I don't want to give people wrong expectations. I'm not saying that they're going to announce from the stage, here it is, and oh, by the way, you could download it now, it's there. No, it's not going to be there, not because they don't have it done. It's done. They have no more room on the server cap of items, on the entity graph, on the however you want to talk about it. It has to come after server meshing. So that's a thing. In addition to that, you should keep in mind, I would think server meshing is such a massive, massive pillar that if they are amazingly awesome, top level, highest programmer geniuses on the planet, right? When server meshing drops, it's going to break everything for a month. If they're less than that, if they are humans, it's going to break everything for, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. This is a massive thing that's going to introduce, it's not like, oh, hey, we're introducing a new, gun or ship to the game. It's like, hey, we're introducing a whole new layer that sits over every last thing in the game. So, yes, when you're inventing a brand new massive technology, you're gonna have all kinds of issues. That might be, honestly, I might day one of server meshing, for sure, I'm gonna log in to play Star Citizen. And then when it breaks in 9,000 fun different ways, I'm gonna say, cool, see you in 3 weeks, and go play No Man's Sky, and then come back to it. Because it's like, let's be adult about this. Let's not expect like, oh, there won't be any problems. There will be many, many problems. But that's the price you pay for getting an amazing new addition of tech that changes the face of the game forever. And so I'm willing to pay that price because I'm dealing with a company that's being honest with, what we're dealing with and how it's going to go. And I think it's just going to be good. I'm excited. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to the Star Citizen discussion topic or Star Citizen in general before we move on to No Man's Sky?
I could throw something in, maybe?
Oh, I skipped you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Audax.
Hi, Kai. How you doing, Kai? Hey, I'm gonna mirror Katie's sentiment. I am not long in the saddle, but it seems that my experience with CIG is they're establishing this precedent of one-upping themselves, because at this point they're really the only show in town that's taking it to this level. But Stanton's done with Crusader. They've fully fleshed out all the asset. I know that since Stanton was made, the system, that was the long-term goal, and now it's at our doorstep with the next patch around the corner. If they're going to one-up themselves as far as location goes, it's kind of got to be another system. And I think that a mechanic involved in jumps is a stroke of genius, because the same kind of breath, that sigh of relief you get after a tough fight or like a really dicey mission down in a cave, if you get a little bit of that just from jumping in from system to system, That's huge because I've jumped in elite. I've jumped all the way from the bubble to Sagittarius A, and it was a mind-numbing hundreds of jumps over and over, same button press every time, no risk involved. I will love the fact that heading to Pyro may or may not shred my ship to pieces.
Yeah, the trip itself is dangerous. It's not a given. It's not a load screen. It's an adventure.